What's up, guys? Today we will be talking about 5 reasons why you should buy the iPhone 11 for 2023. Guys, this is such a great pickup, especially for people who are on a budget and want something that is premium feeling and also very powerful. So let's get into some of my 5 favorite things about this phone. I also want to thank you guys for such an awesome year. Last year, we got like 20K subscribers because we started at like 30 something, 7.1 million views. And yeah, I'm just really excited to keep it going this year. Hopefully we should reach around 80 to 90,000 subs. Also, I'll be posting on shorts a little bit more since that seems like the wave now for YouTube. But yeah, so I'm really excited about that. Thanks for watching, guys. So one of my favorite things about the iPhone 11, this is the reason I like to recommend old flagships to people, is because I get a lot of people come to me and say, Matt, I want something that I could game on. Because if you buy budget phones, they typically are not good for gaming, especially on the Android side. And that's why I always say, go with the older flagship. So the iPhone 11 does have the Apple A13 chip, and it does a really good job with gaming. I dropped the gaming test on this phone. I'm gonna update a lot of my gaming tests, but it still does a really good job with gaming. As you can see, it plays PUBG at really good settings as well. I played a couple other games like Genshin. It did a really good job with that. Call of Duty Mobile, it does a great job with settings. You're able to get, you know, HDR extreme settings on a game like PUBG. Really good settings on Call of Duty. With minimal to, you know, really no lag on this phone. The only thing I can say about this phone, it does get a little bit warm when gaming for long periods of time, but other than that, it's a really strong chip. Not only that, but the iPhone 11 is still very smooth when it comes to opening applications and bouncing in and out of applications. So that's one thing that I definitely noticed. That's one thing that I always check for, is like lag and animations. But this phone is still very smooth. It's running the latest version of iOS as well too. So it's just really smooth when getting in and out of applications, also with multitasking as well too. It still does a fantastic job. So I would say performance on this phone is really good still. Now this phone does have the 64 gigs of internal storage and 4 gigs of RAM. So I think the only issue these days is that if you do download a lot of games and take a lot of video, the 64 gigs might not be enough for you. You might want to get that 128 gig and pay it just a little bit more. But other than that, the RAM is actually not an issue because this phone does an excellent job with multitasking and stuff like that. So like I said, guys, really surprised at just how well these chips are holding up. And the question is, well, how long will this phone get updates? I think this phone is going to get at least another 3, maybe 4 years of updates. You guys got to remember the iPhone 8 is still running iOS 16, so I suspect this phone will have a pretty long lifespan. Next is going to be the camera. So the iPhone 11 does have a dual camera setup, and I really like this because, you know, other than the iPhone XS, which has the telephoto lens, this has the ultra wide lens, which I think a lot of people find more useful than the telephoto lens these days. So it does have a dual camera setup, a 12 megapixel standard and a 12 megapixel ultra wide. It shoots in 4K 60. It also goes down to 24 frames, and then it shoots a 12 megapixel selfie, and it also shoots in 4K 60 and goes down to 24 frames. I compared this phone to the iPhone 14 Pro, and it did a pretty good job. You guys can check that comparison now. Look at the side-by-side stills on that. This phone still is able to chunk out some pretty good photos still, and I would say some really good videos as well. Now, of course, is it going to perform as good as the newer phones in like lower light? No, I think that's the only thing that I saw like aging on this phone. But if you put this phone side by side with some of the best phones in good lighting like the 14 Pro, it does a really good job. Also, one of the things I noticed with the 14 Pro is the ultra wide, which is way higher resolution. It just the dynamic range was just better on that. But other than that, I'm telling you guys, colors and detail, skin tones, they still pretty much look the same with the iPhone 11. I think for the casual person, they're not really going to notice too big of a difference. So like I said, check the video out for yourself and let me know what you guys think. But just taking stills on the iPhone 11, it still does a really good job. I would be perfectly happy using this phone. The images and video are going to come out, it's still going to come out really, really nice looking, in my opinion. So I don't have any issues. You guys can pretty much see the photos for yourself. So I really like the cameras on here. I don't think they look bad at all. Alright, so next would be the design on here. So the iPhone 11 I think still has a really nice looking design, and I would argue it's even more comfortable than the newer phones like the 14 Pro here. It just feels better in the hand as opposed to the boxy sort of edges on the 14 Pro. Kind of cuts into the hand if you just use, you know, these phones without a case. But overall, I think the 11 is just more comfortable to hold. It still has a premium feel. It's glass and metal. It's got the metal sides that don't pick up fingerprints. As you can see with the 14, you sort of get like those little smudges and stuff like that. So I really like the design choice that they went with on the 11. I think it still looks really good till this day. It is also IP68 dust and water resistant as well. The Face ID still essentially works the same. There's really no difference between the new phones and this phone. So I really like it, guys. The design on here I think still is really solid. Still looks really modern. Alright guys, next is the display. So when this phone first came out, I was kind of a big hater on the display. I did not like that Apple went with an IPS panel and they went with a 720p plus resolution display here. Now the phone itself does look fine. The display looks fine, but like I said, Apple has moved on to OLED displays pretty much on all their phones. Some people like the IPS panels. They say it's less aggressive on the eyes or something like that. It's nothing that I've noticed, but I've seen that a lot in my comments. But yeah, so I don't want to know what you guys think, but the colors look fine for an IPS panel. It's fine. It's bright enough as well. So I don't have any real issues with the display on here because, like I said, the PPI is still pretty high on this phone. It's 326. So when you look up close, the icons and everything still look pretty good, especially since it's somewhat small display at 6.1 inches. Yeah, so like I said, the display looks fine. I think the notch is fine because honestly, Apple still has the notch on the iPhone 14. So, you know, you really couldn't tell the difference there. If you put a case on this phone, you would mistake it for a newer phone. Yeah, so honestly, the display is fine. I think it gets the job done. Like I said, it's very easy to one-hand this phone as well too. So if you have smaller hands, it's not super big. Yes, but I think the display is fine on here. A lot of people ask me the questions about that. I think the icons and everything still look sharp. I think it's a pretty nice looking display. Next would be all of your additional features. So like I said, this phone has Face ID. It also has stereo speakers, which sound excellent. Just super strong bass on these speakers. Really good bass coming out of the top speaker as well too. So I do like these speakers. They sound full. They sound really good. Also, you do have wireless charging on this phone as well too, which is really nice as well. And then also your NFC or your Apple Pay. And yeah, we talked about the IP68 rating and stuff like that. So you pretty much have a lot of your flagship additional features on this phone here. And I guess lastly, we can top it off with the battery life. So if you are planning on getting the iPhone 11, 9 times out of 10, you're going to be getting it used or refurbished. Here's a tip for you guys. You do not want to get a iPhone with a battery health that's used refurbished under, I would say I wouldn't get anything under 83, honestly. So make sure, but definitely don't keep it if it's under 80. If it's under 80, it's trash. So make sure when you get a used or refurbished iPhone, like if you buy it on eBay, ask, say, hey, what's the battery health? And on Amazon, you have a 30-day return period. Look at the battery health. So you go in your settings, go to battery, and you make sure that you're above 80. And the battery life on this phone is still pretty good. Like I said, I'm at 87%. And my battery life, I can still pretty much squeeze 6 hours out of this phone fairly easily. I did a battery drain test if you guys want to check that out. But this phone can get you 6 hours if you're not gaming aggressively or shooting like 4K video or basically heavy stuff like that in heavy applications. Just casually using your phone, YouTube videos, Instagram, play a game here and there, web browsing. It'll get you through the day. no problem. So yeah, so thanks for watching this video, guys. I still think this is a fantastic buy, especially if you're an Apple fan. There's really nothing to hate on this phone, with the price that it's at now. Great gaming performance. You're also going to get updates for a few more years as well too, which is really sweet. Really nice design, pretty good cameras in my opinion. So, there's nothing to really hate on with this phone. So be sure to let me know what do you guys think, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.